So do you think UI is all about visual design and UX is about research? I'm here to debunk some commonly held myths about UI and UX design. Hey guys, I'm Elizabeth from Designer Up, helping you level up your product design skills. So what is a myth anyway? A myth is commonly defined as a widely held but false belief or idea. Sometimes it's an external idea that we've heard so many times that we just take it as truth. And sometimes it's an internal narrative because we're insecure or fearful. As a UI, UX, and product designer, I wanted to challenge some of these myths and give you my take. So if you're just getting yourself oriented to the world of UX and UI design, or even if you're well into your career, the industry changes so quickly. The nature of design changes so quickly. And that means there are an inordinate amount of roles and sub-roles cropping up every day and new information to consider. A lot of which swirls around the internet and gets picked up and regurgitated and spread without us having the chance to really test it for ourselves. The funny thing is, the questions and confusion that I experienced in my own design journey and have heard from hundreds of my students and the companies I worked for are usually the same. And what I've observed is that this boils down to two main things: blind spots and myths. So let's talk about some of these myths. A UX designer is an analytical type that deals with research and data. That is a myth. A UX designer is an empathetic individual, and most importantly, a great listener, observer, and storyteller. In terms of process, you may not always have the time and the resources to conduct UX research and testing in nice linear flows. So more than process, you need to be really flexible and iterative and decide what deliverables will get you to an honest assessment of your users' goals best. Empathize with them and observe their world, and leverage this research to tell a great story that makes everyone on your team feel the same about your users. It's important to build what your users want and not what you want them to use. Don't stop there. Ask why. Why are you conducting this type of research? Why are you creating this deliverable? What's the purpose? It's about the quality of your research findings and how well you can synthesize and present your data. The better you can do this, the more accurate the picture of your users will be. Everything else in the process is negotiable. As a designer, it will take lots of practice before my portfolio looks as good as the stuff on Dribbble. Myth: your portfolio does not need to look like the stuff on Dribbble. Most designs in the real world are nothing like what you see on Dribbble, because most companies have many voices influencing design choices. There are accessibility requirements, business requirements, technical considerations, all of these things that go into building a successful product that can't always be wrapped up in a Dribbble-worthy UI package. So many working designers don't have an active portfolio that looks like the stuff you see on Dribbble, and that also isn't the aim. So to be completely honest, most of the stuff on Dribbble looks great, but doesn't or wouldn't work well or solve a real problem. Which one of these weather apps do you think looks best? So from what I can tell, these are all really nicely designed apps from an aesthetic perspective. They all have great color harmony, make use of good white space, illustrate proper visual hierarchy, but only one of them solves the real problem very well. It's number 7. That's because what we really want to know when we check the weather is what to wear that day, right? Or maybe what to pack when we're going on a trip. 74 degrees Fahrenheit is only relevant by association for us. It's relative to how we think it will feel when we go outside, and we want to know how to dress and how to prepare. So an app that illustrates this is potentially more useful and delightful to a user than one that just shows the degrees of temperature. This is what a great UX design and process is great at sussing out. The one that figures this out is unique. and will stand out and make the biggest impact with their product. Yes, you need to have good design skills, but even that is subjective. Style and aesthetic are subjective. But if you have a solid design foundation and sound reasoning for what you're doing based on things like user research and design patterns and usability standards, that will naturally result in better designs, and you can take that knowledge much further than mimicking what you see on Dribbble. Clients will pay me for my exceptional skills and services to design their product or website. Myth. Clients pay you to help make their business more profitable and create a commodity that they can monetize. Companies are results driven. They want to do right by their customers and find that perfect product market fit, and they want their product to be accepted and adopted and delight their users, and of course, become profitable so that they can keep providing that value to their users. Clients want to know how you think and how you're going to solve the problems and make them more profit. That you understand typography and color and how to create an empathy map, but that you also understand how business requirements inform and shape design decisions. The design tool I use makes all the difference in my productivity and output. You guessed it, that is another myth. It's about the right tool for the right job that feels right to the person using it. It does not matter if you choose to use Sketch or Figma or Photoshop. If you are efficient with your design tool and you can produce results, that's all that matters. Pick a program that makes some innate sense to you and matches your mental model, and learn that inside out over a weekend. Just block off a couple of hours, watch an application-specific video, or take a course just on that, and that's all you need to do. Because that app is going to be updated tomorrow, and then that app will be obsolete next week. So get in the habit of not getting too attached to your software and be open to trying out new ones and accepting that there's always going to be a bit of a learning curve for us, but that most of the popular apps are quite similar at any given time. I personally prefer Sketch. I love that it's lightweight, it's not too bloated. You can extend it with plugins if you need to, but everything that you really need to do as a UI designer is there. It's accessible, it's simple, and it keeps improving over time. UI design is about how things look and your creativity. Myth. UI design is about symbolism and mapping visuals and interaction to user perception. UI is not about the pretty colors and shapes in and of themselves. We humans are creatures of habit. The nature of how our senses and minds work generally follow patterns. UI designers need to understand these patterns and how the human mind perceives color and shape and dimension, and then effectively and delightfully map their visuals to their user's mental model. And remembering that not all of us perceive color the same way. Not all of us hear things or see things at the same level. And that's where accessibility comes in. That's where really understanding your target users and your market comes in. You need to be thinking in terms of components and states and determining things like, what should this element look like when it's in the off versus on position? Where should the label be placed? Understanding system input and output. What does the system do when the component is in the on state versus off state? And what should the user see to let them know? Should we even use a toggle or maybe a radio button? Or how about a checkbox? Applying Gestalt principles. So how should this element be placed or grouped with other elements? Being a great product designer is not about limitless creative options. It's about problem solving, healthy constraints, and seeing things from a unique perspective. And I want to stop for a second and let you really take that in. Because I feel like designers, especially as beginners, sometimes we sit down in front of a blank canvas or doing a design challenge and are just overwhelmed by endless possibilities. But when you understand the reason you're doing something and what to measure it against, you start to see that there are very few choices in the moment that make sense. And this is really liberating. So great UI and UX and product design makes data clear and digestible to everyone. It limits the choices of UI design. It shows empathy to the user, and it converts better for the business. It just creates better outcomes all around. How many of you guys feel like you maybe have fallen for some of these misconceptions or myths in the past? How many of you guys are still confused? Let me know in the comments, and maybe I'll do a follow-up question and answer video to this one. So subscribe and stay notified for when that happens. And if you really want to learn everything there is to know about UI, UX, and product design, come check out our master course at designerup.co. Until then, good luck with your designs, and I'll see you back here soon.